welcome to the second episode of the Finding Finergy podcast. I have a special guest here today with us, an amazing woman. Her name is Whitley Holt. She is going to give us some insight today about her personal development life journeys. So get ready, sit back, and buckle in. So, hey, everybody, welcome to episode number 2 of the Finding Finergy podcast. I have a special guest here with me today. Her name is Whitley Holt. Say hey, everybody.
Hey, everybody.
So, Whitley is one of my very, very, very good friends, and she agreed to come on the podcast today. So, as you know, the Finding Finergy podcast is a place for women to share their stories, their personal development stories. So Whitley is going to be second on the mic. She is going to step up to the plate and just share about her personal development, stories and journeys with us. So we appreciate you so much for being here, Whitley.
Thank you for having me.
So one of the very first questions, that I like to jump in and ask my guest is, I want my guest, of course, to tell, listeners about themselves. So I want to know, of course, your name, your marital status, where you're located, how old you are, and if you have any kids.
My name's Whitley. And I am married. I have 3 children, and I'm from Little Rock, Arkansas.
Cool. And how old are you, Whitley?
Ladies don't tell their age. I'm 33.
That's hilarious. Okay. Well, I appreciate that because I just willingly give out my age. So don't mind me. So thank you. So yeah, Whitley is, Whitley and I went to school together and we graduated together. So we're about the same age, but everyone's life, takes different turns. And so I'm super excited to hear, about Whitley's personal development journey. So first of all, to jump in, I want to talk about mental and emotional health, okay? Because mental health is very important, and I think it's something that's underplayed in our community, and definitely more so with women. I want to jump in and talk about mental health, and I want to ask Whitley to give us a synopsis of kind of her own personal mental health journey in her lifetime. So I'm handing it off to you, Whitley.
Well, I feel like my mental health journey, I want to say I feel like it's just starting, or maybe it's been going on and I didn't realize it because I never really thought much about mental health. I mean, I just live my life. I've never been to therapy or anything, and I was brought up in the church and under the impression that we took everything to God, and I do that's something that that's what I utilize. But I mean, I'm all for therapy. That's pretty much where I'm at. I mean, I do try to practice positive coping skills like journaling. And I mean, I've always journaled, but I never connected it with mental health.
Have you ever experienced any times in your life where, maybe you found like that mental health was a struggle for you?
Yes, but I don't think I ever put it in terms of mental health. I guess I never just really used that terminology. I just recently, within maybe the past year and a half, started being curious about the true definition of the word anxiety, because sometimes like after I had my third baby, I would have like these gut feelings, these racing thoughts, and I'm like, what is this? Is this anxiety or what is this or whatever?
Yeah.
And so I guess you could say I'm still kind of new to the terminologies of mental health.
Gotcha. So it really sounds, like this wasn't something that you were exposed to growing up, and in your, older years or your adult years, you're starting to learn about mental health, right? And it's important, seems like it's growing in your life and you're gaining insight, to the different aspects of mental health. That's cool. That's cool. I mean, I think that's how it is for a lot of us, and speaking on, my own personal journey, which I had my own episode, but I think kind of also what you're referring to is just, emotional intelligence in a sense, right? And being tapped into how we truly feel. And that is certainly something that we have to learn how to do.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the accurate assessment, because I never really thought much about how I felt. I mean, I knew I had feelings. I knew how I felt, but just putting it into words or just trying to figure out, okay, how am I feeling? Why am I feeling this way? How do I fix it? I was just accustomed to just going through the motions.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love it. I love it. And you shared some of your coping skills, like you said that you journal. What else do you do to like try to improve your mood or bring yourself up while you're down?
Prayer, Bible reading, music, maybe talking on the phone, whether that's venting or just I don't know if this is healthy, but distracting myself. Sometimes just saying, hey, I want to do something, watch something funny. I like comedy, so just kind of trying to do things that I know that I would enjoy, or do things that would kind of help me navigate through those feelings. It just kind of all depends on what feelings I'm having and what coping mechanism I choose to utilize.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I agree. I think everybody has different coping skills that work for them. And, to a degree, your coping skills are distractions. Sometimes we do need to be distracted from how we feel on an everyday basis until we can, get to an actual resolution, and find a solution rather.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you. Thank you. That's really cool. And I think this is a message for, people listening, to understand that you're never too old to start your journey, right? You're never too old to grow emotionally. You're never too old to tap into your mental health. Whitley and I are 33, right? And even we're at different places. I'm a mental health therapist, so I have to be a little bit more tapped in, but Whitley is at the beginning of her journey, and it's fine regardless of where you are in your journey. I think it's amazing that you are starting to understand, the impact of that in your life. So that's the amazing part. So for any woman listening, I do want to move on to talking about financial development, because as we all know, money rules the world, unfortunately. That's a good thing and a bad thing at times. But financial development is so important for everyone, definitely women, since that's who we're targeting and focusing on, but just, being debt free and having savings and investing and saving for retirement, all that good stuff is something that a lot of people struggle with. Like, I wish I had it down perfect, but I don't. And so I want to dive in, and I want you to give everyone a synopsis of where you feel like you are, financially.
On the struggle bus.
Totally understood. Totally understood. Would you like to expand on that a little bit?
I mean, adulting is overrated.
Yeah.
And
No.
and I'm not gonna lie and say that I didn't have any guidance growing up, because I did to a certain degree. I mean, my mom, she always kept good credit. She always made sure that she paid her bills on time. She exemplified having a budget book, counting, making sure she kept up with her ledger, being conscientious of money. And I just kind of deviated from those lessons when I, became an adult. I started off with the right mindset, but once I started getting approved for credit cards, I was, trying to buy things that I wanted, not that I needed. And it's not to say that I couldn't buy what I wanted, but I didn't have that discipline like she had to go without for a little bit or to make certain sacrifices. And so, in my 30s, I'm still trying to recuperate from what I've done in my 20s. And, I didn't make it easier having a husband and children. So, that kind of added on. When I started out, I only had one child. So,
Yeah.
Still trying to piece it all together and still live life.
Listen, I totally understand. And in my episode, I was saying some of the same things, not that I grew up from just this money discipline background, but I definitely understand. I feel like we've all had moments, where we did what we wanted to do, and so I think that, I feel like it's part of the journey, so I totally get it. And I feel like anyone, any of the other women listening will totally understand, because they've probably had a phase like that too, so have you started investing any money, or are you interested in investing? Where do you stand with that?
I've played around with it, but the fact is I feel like the fact is I wasn't ready to get started, because normally they say you don't start investing until you get into a certain place with your debt or whatever. But I started, and then I needed to get the money out, and I know in essence you're not supposed to touch it. And I'm not saying that I just touched it as soon as I had my first problem. I mean, when things got to a point where it was like, I need that money now. I have to worry about retirement when I get there. Hopefully I'll pursue some goals and dreams that I can fund my retirement in one whop, or, speed it up. So yeah. I mean, I definitely know the importance of it, but yeah, that's that.
Okay. So, my follow-up was going to be about saving money. So do you feel like you would categorize saving money in that same, or, tell us a little bit about your money saving journey?
Whitley and savings don't get along. We had a savings account one time, and that savings account became dormant.
Yeah. No, I totally understand. I was literally sharing, and it's something that, it's something we need to talk about, because it's very important, to understand how to level ourselves up financially. It's so much easier said than done, right? It's so much easier said than done to save money, to invest money, when you don't know how, when you don't know what to do, when you don't know where to start, when you have all these bills that are coming at you and don't stop. So money is hard. It's super hard. Where do you stand in terms of your debt? Like, how happy are you? How has that developed for you, just, over your life?
How happy am I?
I guess nobody's happy with debt, right? Nobody likes debt.
I mean, I'm not in debt up to my eyeballs, but it's not up to my ankles either.
Yeah. I understand. And obviously, like, is it your goal to like pay your debt off or
make it worse? Yeah,
that's hilarious. Okay, yeah, right. You're like, who nobody wakes up and says, I want to be in debt today,
Yeah, I want to pay it off.
Yeah. No, I totally understand. Like, I have my student loans. I shared on my episode that like I filed bankruptcy, and I have my student loans left, and I really want to pay those off. So
Well, I filed bankruptcy before, and I don't want to do that again. I mean, at the time, I really was in a position where I wasn't going to be able to make that possible, but now I feel like I could potentially make it possible to pay it off. And it stays on there for chapter 7 stays on your credit for 10 years, and even though as it gets older it's not as impactful, I just don't want to have that on there, and I don't want to start that journey over again.
Yeah, totally understandable, because neither do I. I'm sure there's so many differing opinions on filing bankruptcy, because there are people that file bankruptcy multiple times, like literally every 10 years, or I just can't start over every 10 years. That's exhausting. So
I guess they get what they needed during that 10 years.
I guess so. I mean, because it really kind of takes like 2 to 3 years to bounce back, at the minimum from that.
So if you're not getting into debt, getting something that's really going to help you along the way before you file bankruptcy, you're just sitting there with debt, with nothing, no assets to speak for, just debt.
Man, oh man. Look, and bringing me to, one of the points of this podcast, and this is exactly why I am in the process of, creating the Finergy membership, because women really need a place where we can come and we can learn about these things, right? Mm-hmm. We can, learn about how to better manage our money, learn about how to invest our money, learn about, how to save our money, how to pay off debt. We need a place like that where we can come to and we can connect with other people like us, right? That are struggling and that have come out of, because I'm sure there are so many amazing stories about how women, were deep in debt and they've come out, but we all are in silo, and that's the problem. So we don't know each other, So plug for the Finergy membership. We haven't launched yet, but we are, we have a wait list. So go to www.findingfinergy.com and sign up for the wait list, because we would love to have you there. So thank you for being vulnerable. I know finances are not easy to talk about. Nobody likes to talk about finances. Even in our everyday lives, it's kind of taboo. So thank you. I do want to move on and talk about spiritual health, spiritual development. Okay. For me, God is a stakeholder in my life. And, maybe that's not every person that's watching. Maybe everyone isn't a Christian, but I do believe the importance having some spiritual or religious focus, something that you believe in, that's a higher power than you, is really what guides a lot of your success in life. And so I want to know kind of where you sit, how has your journey with, religion and spirituality developed over the years?
Well, I feel like I should start just from growing up. And, when I reflect back in hindsight, I realized how much I really was learning because, I mean, when I was in church, I wasn't just sitting there taking copious notes. I wasn't just sitting there listening to every word. I wasn't coming home discussing the sermon. Um, it even got to a point where we weren't necessarily going on a weekly basis, but I still was in the environment and I wasn't listening to everything and following every rule. And so, in hindsight, I realized how much I really was grasping. And, throughout my life, that teaching, that foundation has shown itself in my life. And so God is everything to me. He is my foundation. He's the one who reels me in when I'm kind of going astray. And it's not to say that, I'm posing to be perfect. It's just to say that when times are hard, he really is my fortress, the one that I'm like, okay, I can't, I'm not figuring this out. And so really I feel like having a strong foundation is very important to a lot of things. And sometimes, I find myself, as I'm sure others may, find themselves realizing that, hey, you kind of left God out of this portion of your life, but you act like he's only for these portions of your life. And it's like the reality is he's for everything. And, sometimes you don't think about that, and I thought about that just thinking about the finances. I can't say I've necessarily been strategic in praying, or intentional rather, in praying about, my finances, guidance with that, and just, the strength to have that discipline with the information that I know that I'm knowledgeable about with it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. And that's, because we're friends, of course we talk offline. Like, this is definitely one of the people that I look to, you know, for spiritual knowledge, and to always redirect me back to, you know, thinking about God and putting God into situations. So we certainly think alike on this topic. We are, we're one and the same on this one. And I don't know how, and I said this on my episode, I don't know how people live life without God. So again, I am a Christian, and God really is that centerpiece for me. So I don't know how people do it without, because trying to figure a lot of these things out that we struggle with on a daily basis is exhausting enough, right? And when you're just able to give it to God, like, that is a peace like no one else can bestow upon you.
I feel like I would be crazy.
I feel like I was crazy before, I really honed in, and going back to your journey, like you said, this was something you were introduced to when you were younger, and it was a foundation for you, and just like an insider, just because I know her, Whitley, Whitley, was like, she had to listen to gospel music. So like, this is real. This is how she grew up, and so I know it was something that was very, important and instilled in the foundation. So I think it's, really amazing how everybody's like spiritual journey, goes, because everybody can have such different journeys. But it sounds like yours has been really consistent. Like, if I had to ask, at what point do you feel like you really dialed in with God? You know what I'm saying? Like, it sounds like you were kind of going through the motions when you were younger. And at what point in your life did that like light bulb come on?
Well, I had 2 points. The first one was when I was 20. I want to say I was 21, but maybe I was 20 and I was still pregnant with my son, or either I had just had him. And I remember thinking that I wanted the best for him and I wanted to be of a good example for him. And I knew that I had to change some things up about my life. And it's not to say that I was just this terrible person, but I wasn't considering God in a lot of the choices that I was making. So, I wanted to change how I talked, how I handled things. And one of the biggest things to me in that moment, when I was thinking about it, I remember I was sitting in the car in front of my grandma's home. One of the biggest things is I didn't want to be have this split personality, where that's probably lack of better terms, but I'm just saying I didn't want to be one person in front of my kid and a totally different person where he wouldn't even be able to recognize me if he just creeped up on me. I mean, obviously we're kid appropriate, but I'm just saying, just the overall essence of who I was is what I'm referring to. And the second instance that has, which I would think would be my finalizing moment, was in 2015. It was probably like the end of 2015. And I just remember I had a lot of questions. I was really just seeking for answers, and I wanted them from God. I wanted him to guide me. And I prayed and I asked, and I was, I started reading my Bible on a more consistent basis with journaling and prayer every day. At the time, I had just got this job that was really laid back. So it allowed for me to be able to spend 30 minutes to an hour being in his presence. And so that was amazing. And little did I know, God was preparing me. He put that on my heart. I believe it to this day that he put that in me to draw near to him, because little did I know I was preparing for my grandmother's death. She died like 9 months later. And I was still on that journey during that time.
Wow. That's really amazing. I think it's like very admirable that you're able to kind of pinpoint, at what point your life truly changed because you dialed in to God. You're like, okay, I'm going to do this. And you made an intentional choice, which is what, finding Finergy is all about. It's making an intentional choice to better yourself, right?
Yeah.
And so that was your choice to say, hey, I really want to be here and I really want to understand these things. So here's what I need to do.
It was a really amazing journey with that, because I remember it was so many times when I would read a scripture and then I would go check on my grandmother and they would give me some type of bad news or whatever. And it was like right then and there, those scriptures that I read that day or within that week, it came to my remembrance, and it was something that was helpful to me in that time. It was a reminder of who God was in my life in that situation. And I mean,
wow.
You know me, my grandmother and I were very close, and I just always thought that when she died, I would just go crazy. And I responded a completely different way, and I owe all of that to God. I mean, I was in my master's program when she died, and I completed it, and I really owe all of that to God.
Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. God is amazing. And we can probably sit up and do a whole podcast episode, multiple podcast episodes on the, amazing grace of God. So I'm going to transition to another subject. I want to talk about physical health and wellness. And so, as we know, losing weight, eating right, just our overall physical appearance is definitely it's been a struggle point for me. And so I can imagine that some of these things are difficult for other women. And so I want to start out, by asking you, Whitley, to tell us a little bit about your physical health and wellness journey.
On the struggle bus. it gets harder as you get older, and well, it's gotten harder as I've gotten older. I'll say that. I won't put that on everybody. But, you know, and I'm not even talking about just being difficult for the weight to come off. I'm just talking about having the discipline, and, you know, when your lifestyle changes, and, you know, when you feel like you're out of control with a lot of things in life, but, you know, you can control what you eat. So, you know, you want to have that cheesecake or that delicious strawberry cake with cream cheese icing, whatever. You know, you tend to do that. You know, when you want to go out and have a nice time with your friends or your husband, you want to go out to eat. Well, I do anyway.
Me too.
So it's been really difficult. I mean, growing up, I was never really, we never learned about, I'm not gonna say we never learned about it, but it wasn't harped on about, you know, your health and wellness. I mean, yeah, I had gym, and we had that health class in the 6th grade or 7th grade, but I don't remember doing nothing but being excited to chit chat with friends. So, I mean,
we dressed out and sat on the bleachers. That's what we did.
So when I had my first child, I remember in 2011, I stepped on the scale, and that was the biggest I had ever been at that point. And I was like, I have to do something different. And so I started researching diets. I had started with the Atkins diet. I don't know if you ever heard of that.
Yes.
And I was just trying to keep it simple. I don't know how closely I was following it, but I was like just eating salads. And I wasn't too strict. So, you know, I still had ranch and croutons, but I would mainly eat salads, protein, and boiled eggs. And I was so disciplined. I used to work at Kroger, and I would have, for anyone who's ever worked in retail or worked at Kroger, you know, you don't typically have that set schedule. You have these fluctuating schedules. Some day you're working 1 to 10, 1 to 9, you know, well, 12 to 9, I mean. And so even if I got off at 9 o'clock, I would come in and I would exercise on my Wii Fit. I started going to these, I eventually started counting calories, and I didn't like that, but I started doing different things, but I was losing weight. Let me add that. I was losing weight. And to me, that was success, because I was losing weight. I mean, I was dedicated. I remember the school that I went to at the time was Euler, University of Little Rock. And I would go to their workout classes. If I got off at 9, I was rushing to get there at that 9:30 class. I was dedicated. Then next thing you know, I meet my husband. We get married. And that's another podcast, because we got married in like 8 months. And I'm throwing down. I've neglected every discipline bone in my body. And next thing you know, I'm pregnant. I'm gaining more weight than when I first started, and you know, here I am now, and it's flip-flop. That's where I'm at now. It's flip-flop.
Listen, we all know that struggle bus. We have all rode that struggle bus, and a lot of us are still riding the struggle bus and have been getting on and off for years. So I have been on that struggle bus too. I'm gonna have to use that in the future. But so serious. It's tough out here. It's tough. And especially when it comes to weight loss, you know, and weight loss, your motivation to keep going with exercising. And you know,
it's linked. It's linked with other things. Your mental, your spiritual.
That's the exact point I was gonna make. So you took the words like right out of my mouth, because when you're not emotionally well, when you don't have that internal motivation and internal drive, you're not going to, you know, take care of yourself physically the same. And so, oh my gosh, it's just hard. It's hard. So I understand you on that one. Now I do want to know, tell me a little bit about like your self-esteem journey. How do you feel about your self-esteem today? Like, also, how has it developed just, during your lifetime?
It's the first response that comes to my mind is that I feel like, this may not be accurate, but I feel like my self-esteem is non-existent. I don't really consider it, when I really think about it. I remember when I was a teenager, if I was to give a number during that time, I would say it was probably like at a 5. And maybe that's where I'm still at now. Maybe me saying it's non-existent is me being indifferent about it, just kind of being in the middle, being neutral. But I remember I focused a lot on how my teeth looked because I had a gap at the time, and I wasn't huge or anything, but I had started developing a gut. And so I was like, well, maybe I'll just get taller. I didn't know I was done growing. I'm 5'1". And so I don't remember just having, when I think of self-esteem, I'm thinking about, your physical appearance, mostly at the time. But I know now that self-esteem also deals with, how you feel on the inside. So it's kind of like, I feel like I'm just, even now, I just feel like I'm indifferent. It's like, I don't think I'm ugly. And if somebody came up here trying to challenge me, then I'm like, okay, hold on, who you talking to? I ain't the one that's gonna be like, yeah, I am, And as far as like who I am, if you come at me challenging my character, then you're gonna get that response out of me. But
yeah,
I don't know if I'm answering your question, but that's just where I'm at with it. I'm not one to say, oh, well, my self-esteem is 100, because I'm just kind of like, I know who I am.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you did answer my question. And I think for a lot of us, kind of going along with that motivation piece, I think we have times when it's great. And some days you look in the mirror, you're like, man, I'm the bomb. I'm pretty. I'm beautiful. You say stuff like,
be done.
Yeah, no, my hair got to be done for that. So
yeah.
Yeah.
If hair not done, I'm looking like, oh my goodness, who am I?
So serious. I'm telling you, on those bad hair days, it's like, but
I often think about India Arie's song, I am not my hair. And I have always disagreed. I say I am my hair.
It plays a big role. I'm telling you, oh my gosh, that could be a whole nother episode, because when your hair is done, other things can be looking raggedy. Your toes could be looking raggedy. Your clothes might not be too sharp, but that hair, makes all the difference. Listen, I agree. And, on that note, like, I want to know kind of what that journey has been like for you.
Well, it's like the journey of my life. I feel like the only thing that's stagnant is probably my relationship with God. Not stagnant, steady.
Yeah.
Constant. Because with my clothing, when I was in high school, I was interested in how I looked. I was very concerned with hair, my clothes. I wanted to wear not necessarily the latest fashions, but if I liked it, I wanted to wear it. I cared how I looked. I took time for that in the morning to comb my hair and all that stuff. As I got in my 20s, it was like I just wanted to, wear something to look presentable, but my attire was my Kroger uniform, and I loved it because I could wear the same thing every day. Of course, you wash it. So I loved that. So I didn't really have much of a wardrobe. So I felt like, what's the point of having a bunch of clothes if I'm only pretty much going to work? And so then when I started working at this new job in 2015, it was a job in the mail room. And so I was just delivering mail. So I'm like, what's the point of me dressing up? So, I was not required to be business casual in that office or anything. I could wear jeans. And so I wasn't wearing the cutest jeans. I was wearing mom jeans. And we all know what mom jeans look like. I would wear clothes that weren't flattering to my body. And I remember one day passing by a mirror and I was like, I was sloppy. And so I didn't like that. And it made me feel bad. And so I started trying to change how I was dressing. so I could wear something that was more flattering to my body type that made me feel happy. And it was like, I don't know how long that lasted, or maybe I just had enough to get a couple of outfits because now I'm at that point where I can't say that I care, but I don't care. If I'm going to the grocery store, my mindset says, what's the point of dressing up? I don't want to use up these clothes. I don't want to wear my good clothes to go to the store. So I'm throwing on, workout attire. If I'm going to stores, I'm not interested. I mean, back in the day, if I was going to the mall, I had to look a certain way. But now I'm like, hope I don't see nobody I know. And I'm walking up in there with my grocery store clothes on. So just being honest, I care, but I don't care. I mean, a lot of times I feel like, what's the point in putting this on and that? And it's not to say that I don't like it, because when I get dressed up, I feel nice. Normally when I want to dress up, it's if I'm going to an event, or, I'm going on a intentional date with my husband, and I mean an intentional date. If we're just going to Taco Bell, what is this for? But if we're gonna go to Olive Garden, I might say, "You're cute." So that's where I'm at with it.
Yeah. Okay. No, I understand, and everybody has their journey. Like, that's the beauty.
Still want my hair done.
Listen, I mean, it doesn't matter. That hair got to be done, or it makes the big difference. But no, I totally understand, and everybody has their own journey. And that's one of the things that, I wanted to use this podcast to remind women of, is that, there's no one way. There's many ways to get to where, we want to be. And so just being able to display every woman's journey, and where they are. And at the end, we're going to talk about some goals, that you have for each of these areas. So not only have we been able to see where you've been and where you are now, but we'll also get a peek at where you want to go in terms of these things. So our next section is about career development. And as we all know, the saying is, you don't work, you don't eat. So we've all, most of the women that I'm going to talk to, of course, we have jobs and we have careers. And because we spend so much time at work, finding happiness in that career, right, is very important. So give me a synopsis about, like, your journey with your career and kind of where you are now.
I started off working, technically my very first job was working for a company called Independent Choices. And basically it was a company that allowed your loved ones to get paid to aid a loved one. And so I used to do stuff for my uncle. But my first job was working at Kroger. I was there for like 7 years. I did, I started off as a bagger, and I did that for like 3 months. I was like, I don't like that. And so from there, in hindsight, I realized how many opportunities Kroger really afforded to me, because I got my first experiences in supervising. I got to dabble in bookkeeping, and I got to do payroll, which I enjoyed doing payroll, maybe because it was easy. I don't know. Then I started working for the state of Arkansas, and being in that office setting was different. Like I said, my first position there was being in the mail room, and I really, in hindsight, I wish I could have stayed in that position longer, because I felt like it had so much flexibility where I could have the mental space to focus on things outside of work to help me develop into who I wanted to be. But at the time, I felt like, oh, I need to move up this ladder here. So I was just applying within the building I was in. And so, from there, I worked in a debt recovery section. I did another supervisor role, and I was a caseworker. And now I'm back in a supervisor role. And It's cool, but I'm nowhere near where I want to be in my career. And it doesn't match up with, what I got my education in. And even with what I got my education in, I'm kind of like, I don't know if I still want to do that. And so I'm just kind of in a place where I'm just working to eat.
Wow. Okay. And that was actually going to be one of my questions. What was your education?
I got my bachelor's in psychology, and I'm gonna be real. I didn't pursue a master's in psychology because I think it was you who told me you had to take a degree, and I was like, I gotta take a test to get into school, and so I just wasn't dedicated. I was tired of being in school, and so it was probably a couple of years later when a friend was taking a class at Webster University, and I was like, well, okay, I'm just being honest. It was for the refund check, okay? So she told me about the refund check she got. And I was like, well, I might be interested in school. She said she had taken no tests. And so I said, this is like a win-win. I get something now and I'm going to get this degree. And so I'm not saying I just picked a random, it's going to sound random, but I got my master's in health administration. At the time, it sounded like the best thing popping because my grandma was sick at the time. I was seeing a lot of stuff in the health sector that I felt like needed to be changed, like policy wise. And I was like, health administration sounds like it felt like all the signs were there because I heard about it on the radio. And so I'm like, what? I was just talking about going to school. And so this is where I am. That's what I have it in, health administration. Originally I wanted to do public health. No, not public. It was some type of public degree that they had as well I was interested in.
Cool. So in terms of your career, I feel like you talked about this a little bit before, just in your synopsis, but do you feel fulfilled with your current career, or, do you want more?
No, I don't feel fulfilled, and I want more, but not in terms of another job.
Yeah. No, I totally understand. And again, like, your career is one of those very impactful things just because of how much time we spend, it's literally our other home. Going to work is like going to a whole nother house that we have because we spend so much time there a week. And being happy, nobody wants to go to work and like dread having to go to work every single day. That's exhausting.
Yeah, and just being honest, sometimes I try to block the thought out, but sometimes I feel like work gets in the way of my life.
Yeah. I definitely think it can feel that way, especially when you don't like feel fulfilled by what you do, when it's not something that you enjoy. I feel like there are two types of people when it comes to work. There are people that do things because they care about them, and there are people that do things for the money. And when you are a passion-driven person working for money, that's not congruent. They don't go together. It's like, it's almost like they are, they repel each other. And so it makes that work life just,
And because I'm passion driven, I feel like on this job that I'm doing now, I'm passionate about helping people. I care about people. So I'm not just on this job, just not doing what I'm supposed to do, being humdrum about it. And so it's like some days I feel like I'm putting so much thought and energy into that job that mentally I'm neglecting other things that I should be dealing with, whether it's personal or for my family.
Yeah. No, and again, plugging the Synergy membership, like, it's very important, because of the time we spend and all the years that if you remain in the workforce until you're retired, that you dedicate to going to a job and having a job that is something that you enjoy, that it's a place that you want to be, that you feel fulfilled with every day. And this is a struggle that a lot of people, definitely a lot of women have. And so providing a place where I can learn how to seek that out, I can learn how to, transfer my skills from this to that. That's when you're trying to make that change, that's definitely something challenging. And so that is, definitely a benefit that's going to be, of being in the Finergy membership. So again, if you have not signed up for the wait list, please
Sign
go.
up now.
Please go. Click the
Well,
link.
after it's over.
Yeah. Right after we're done, head on over there and sign up for the wait list. So our last section is entrepreneurial success. And I know everyone is not an entrepreneur. Everybody doesn't aspire to be an entrepreneur. Some people are like okay with working for someone, for their entire life. But, because of what you just sorry, did that sound horrible?
They do when I think about it.
I'm like, man, I made that sound horrible. There are legit some people that would enjoy working for someone for the rest of their life. But this is another area in which Whitley and I are similar, because that's not something that I want to do. And that's not something that she wants to do. And
Absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about like your entrepreneurial like experience up to this point. How has that been for you?
Well, it's been okay. I remember when I was about 21 years old, I said something that I now think is so stupid. I said, I don't want to be an entrepreneur. I want someone to tell me what to do. And here I am today saying, I don't want anyone telling me what to do.
Flip, you had to flip it, okay? Yeah.
And so I was introduced to insurance, like life and health insurance, when I was about 23. I forgot to mention that. And so I had got my life and health license. And at the time, I was still going to school. I was still working part-time at Kroger. And so I kind of had a hard time trying to balance getting into sales because I'm not really a salesy person. But I did understand the importance of life insurance because I've always had life insurance since I was 20 years old. I mean, my grandma purchased it, and then I took over, and I knew it was important. It wasn't anything I ever dropped. And I sold a few policies here and there, and I later I had got into the skin care and health and beauty sector. So I started making body scrubs, body butters, and and I made sock soaks. And so I was mainly making that like for your feet, the sock soaks, because I didn't want to get into all that with liability with people who were sensitive to like if they sat in a bath with it, because I used fragrances. So I tried to make sure I marketed it as foot soak. But one Mother's Day, I was trying to come up with a cost-efficient way to make something meaningful and thoughtful for the mothers in my life, my mom, my stepmom, and my mother-in-law. And so I made some sugar scrubs, and it felt so nice. And I was like, oh, I could probably sell these and make some money. And I was gonna put them in like some little Tupperware bowls from Dollar Tree, and that you would talked about like a dog. And I ended up buying some containers from Amazon that looked more professional. And some kind of way I started doing the body butter. Once I got the idea, I went on the University of YouTube and I started learning stuff, and it just felt so satisfying. Like I really liked the idea of doing it. I liked doing it. And so I started I actually have something in front of me. I'm not in business anymore, but this is one of my, I don't know if y'all can see that, but this is one of my products. Cotton candy. I mean, I had made the
Oh,
labels. My husband was helping me with it. I started having different scents, and I did okay. Like the first year, I was really promoting for like Christmas time, and soon it started feeling like a chore, and I wasn't having as much time to do it, and I wasn't being prepared. I wasn't planning like I need to. So I probably had some poor execution. But at the end of the day, I wasn't as happy doing it anymore. And so I was like, I identify that my personality is more so I rather tell someone how to do something. I rather equip you with the tools that you need to be successful than for me to have to be physically hands-on. Because I remember before I completely felt like it was a chore, I started saying, I think one day I'm going to want to sell this off because I can't see myself making body butter for the rest of my life.
yeah.
Maybe it's
Yeah.
me, maybe I'm the problem, but so now entrepreneurship is not off the table, but it's not on my table right now.
Listen, you are not wrong in thinking that, hey, I don't want to be doing the business of my business for the rest of my life. Like, nobody wants to be doing the actual hands-on business. We all definitely want to grow to a point of where, hey, I got these people here that's gonna do this for me. And like you said, I'm gonna tell you what direction to go in. I'm gonna tell you what to do, and you're gonna execute.
I want the
So
business to keep going while I'm on vacation.
absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that I say very often is, I want a business that brings me time and location and financial freedom. That's the three things I want from my business. If it's not giving me those three things, it's not the opportunity for me, you know. And entrepreneurship is not an easy journey. It's something that a lot of people want to do, but it's not something that a lot of people know how to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, what would you say is the most challenging thing about entrepreneurship?
Having the proper finances to fund it, you know, and having consistency with, whatever it is that you're doing so that you can be constantly, promoting, constantly creating, and planning.
Yeah,
Planning was a challenge for me. I
yeah,
think the most challenging was the finances, and what was challenging for me was the planning, because a lot of times I would find myself planning like the day before the holiday, saying, "Hey, yo, you want to buy some butter for Valentine's Day?"
y'all, I'm laughing so hard because Whitley, I'm not laughing at my friend, I'm laughing with my friend.
I wasn't laughing.
I
I was not laughing.
don't know how I
I
don't know
still
how
to
much
this
she
day
laughing.
think
I
that
think
my baskets were beautiful.
okay, this is funny. It is funny because Whitley's journey is reminiscent of a lot of our journeys, when I think back on, my times of entrepreneurship, and I talked more about those in my episode, but I went through many times, and I'm still in times where I'm trying to figure out what the best strategy is. How do I go about this? How do I position this in a way that people want it? And that story, was really, an example of what that looked like for her and her business. But a lot of us, have times like that where we're like, oh my gosh, I don't know. I know I got something good. I know I got something that people will want, something that people would like, but I don't know how to get it to them. I don't know, how to make them aware. I don't know how to sell this. Like, I don't know how to bring the money in. So that is the struggle of so many business owners. And just, as we're wrapping this up, like, speaking on everything that Whitley has shared, she said many times that she was on the struggle bus. Well, The reality is that a lot of us are on the struggle bus. So, Whitley, you are not on the struggle bus by yourself, because you are not the only person that struggles with, you know, being successful with entrepreneurship. You're not the only person that struggles with finances or physical health and wellness, or, you know, mental health. We all struggle with these things. And this is exactly why I wanted to create a community around these things, where women can come together, where women can connect with each other, and literally create a place where we can all grow together. Not only are we connecting, but we're connecting and we're growing. And so we don't have to ride that struggle bus for the rest of our life. Okay.
For real though.
We are all making the intentional choice to, we like, okay, my stop might be, you know, a few miles away, but I know I have a stop and I know I'm going to get off. So we have all been on that struggle bus in many of these areas, as I shared in my own episode. I am definitely still on the struggle bus with them. But one thing is for sure, even though we're on the struggle bus, we are not in the same part of town. So we have journeyed and we have traveled, you know, we have progressed, you know, through our struggle. We have made positive changes, intentional positive changes, as you shared, in terms of your spirituality, in terms of your physical health and wellness, in terms of your mental health. You know, all of these areas you have shared that you have grown from where you used to be. And I want you to let that resonate, as well as the women listening to this or watching this episode. Let that resonate. Okay. So I appreciate you so much for getting on here, being vulnerable. You know, many times we don't think like this, right? We don't sit up and think about our previous, you know, experiences and how far we've come from and where we started. So it's really amazing just to be able to reflect. And that's what you've done coming here, you know, on the channel and on the podcast today. Now, I want to wrap this episode up by you telling me kind of what your future goals are in some of these areas. So, you know, I want to hear, like, what are your goals for your mental health? What are your goals for your financial wellness, your spiritual development, your physical wellness, your career and entrepreneurship? Tell us a little bit about those.
My goal is to be more consistent with my journey with God. And my journey looks like, you know, spending more time in intentionality with Him, with praying and reading my Bible, because that has something to do with my mental. When I find that when I'm in prayer and when I am in close connection with God, I find that my mental clarity is different. It's better. It's improved. I see situations in my life differently. So my goal is to improve with Him so that I can improve my mental, so that I can be in a different space of positivity when it comes down to my health and wellness, that I'm being more intentional with that I'm not just on autopilot, so that I'm being able to be more intentional with, you know, my life as a whole, with my children, so that I can focus on my career goals in life. Well, really more so entrepreneurial goals. Just really my goal is to kind of expand my mental mindset so that I'm actually able to plan and explore what I'm interested in, because I feel like that's a part of my life I really haven't opened up or even I've attempted to master it, but I'm still kind of not quite there yet.
Absolutely. And I think those are all amazing goals, and it, you know, really just centered around growth and continuing to grow. So I think that's a perfect place to be, and that's exactly where you should be, is just wanting to continue to pursue better, right? So I really do appreciate you taking time out of your day. Yes, I thank you for telling your story. I know you, there are definitely some things I learned about you, through this episode, but I'm glad to, be able to give you a place to inspire others from, through your own personal journey. So we'll
Thank
definitely be
you.
having Whitley back on the podcast. So I'll let you say your final goodbyes and then we'll roll out to the outro.
Thanks for having me. I enjoyed being here, being able to share those things. I hope I said something that could help you, whether it helps you grow or it helps inspire you. And just knowing that you're not alone. Maybe something I said, you have thought the same things. It might be something I said that made you cringe. Sorry. I just hope if you didn't like it, I hope it helped you grow in some way.
Thank you. We'll see y'all on the next episode.